All right, here we go. Yep. Day 20, week 3. Yep. Let's get it going. That's exactly right. All right, everybody filing in. Yes, yes, yes. We're going to be starting in just a couple moments. We are live, day 20, week 3. Hi there, Bruce. Folks, we have a light drizzle going on here. Light drizzle. Good afternoon, Bruce. Yes. There's Crystal. Yes, yes, and yes. Let me do this. Again, we are live. We're not going to do X today. We're just going to do Facebook and YouTube. There we are. There is the home. And I do have some news that I'm going to explain to everybody. We're going to be starting just a couple minutes. Good afternoon, everyone. There's Crystal. Hey, hey, hey. There's Kristen Perry. Our YouTube crowd keeps building. Yep. Where is Nancy? I have some new thoughts on this I'm going to share. I didn't come to it lightly. I didn't. What I'm going to tell you has been, how can I say it? Kind of building a little bit. There we go. Boy, listen how crystal clear that audio is. Light snow in Lincoln. There's Harriet Brown. There's Diane. Yep. Pete says good to go. I am, folks, I'm very happy with how we've really nailed the audio part. Now, I recognize that, we have, listen to me. What I was going to say was I recognize that if I were just live on Facebook, then it is a clearer picture. If I'm just live on YouTube, it's a clearer picture. By doing this, it's not exactly the picture, but it allows me to reach more of you. So thus we're going to do it. Now we're again at the top of the hill. The media is still here in force. It is day 20, week 3. We're going to begin in just 3 minutes. I want to thank Pete back at the station because in just 3 minutes, we're going to be live on both AM 1380, 99.9 FM. Now, then we're always live on our website, dpetro.com. I'm going to talk about it because my position on this is kind of evolving a little bit. It is. And as you know, I like to deal in reality, and I think we have to deal in reality. So I'm going to tell you in just a moment. Everybody be patient. We'll get there. Remember, if you're watching on Facebook, you can send stars. If you're watching on YouTube, you can certainly send some super chats. But I'm going to walk through this, and it's just kind of occurred to me. And I'm going to go with a lot of the experience that I've had that many of you know of following these cases. And what I'm going to tell you is I did not come to this lightly. It's a light drizzle, so I have a hood up, and plus we have the umbrella. I'm going to tell you in just a moment. So hopefully we have our mods. Good afternoon, Jane Rice. Thank you, everyone. There's Christina. Put where you're watching from in Iowa. So many of you, don't be impatient. I'm going to leave it up to the mods that we have, but let me just explain. Sometimes you need, think of decorum. If you have a group of family members that are sitting in a room, and then you don't just, or at least you shouldn't, I would now never allow my children. You don't just walk into the room and start. What is this? What game is like? You sit down, you absorb, right? Now we're quiet. Let's be patient. I'm going to tell you what I'm thinking. It's not going to be in a 10-second, burb. Pennsylvania, Michigan, Holland, Texas. I do have news for you. I'm not going anywhere. I've notified both my hotel and the rental company. We're extending the stay. Today's day 20. Tomorrow I'll be out here for day 21. Sunday I'll be out here for day 22. Unless something dramatic happens, right? Monday's day 23. We're here. We're extending. Rhode Island, Janet Dwyer, of course. So, all right, we're going to begin. And again, I want to I'm also first of all, I want to thank the Coicidin sponsors of our website, which is depetro.com. If you log on at depetro.com, that also has links to all of our social media. I highly implore you, if you're on Facebook, follow our YouTube channel. YouTube has been done very well, but we're going to really put an effort in to boost it up over the next several days. It's at the top of my list. TikTok is flying right now. Facebook is absolutely flying right now, on fire. But we're also on Instagram and we're also on X. But I use the different platforms. I use them for different reasons. But this portion of our program, I want to thank the Coicidin. They sponsor our website, depetro.com. Again, over the weekend, I will be putting up new video and various things like that. They're waiting for you at the Coicidin. Connecticut checking in. So I'm going to, and again, I recognize everybody operates differently. I have found it's a light drizzle here in the Catalina foothills, which is where we are. Next week, by the way, it's going to be into the 80s here. So it's going to be like real Arizona weather. But I'm just trying to give a tip. I would like to provide the best viewing experience for so many of you. And I recognize, listen, different creators operate differently. Some people you come in, you put whatever you want, people putting all kinds of things. I try to run a little more of a civilized situation. I know some of you are under the habit of you come into a chat for those that are watching and you type whatever you type, what's happening, what's going to update, please, like that. But we don't operate that way. We don't operate that way. So, or I don't. I just think I know that of people that watch that it gets annoying. So I want to show you. We are again, and this time I did move to the top of the hill. Let me go there as the rain comes down a little bit harder. There is the home of Nancy Guthrie. We have a little bit of a windstorm coming through, hopefully not that bad, but it is day 20, week 3. And I'm going to tell you right now, you can really see actually how, boy, when the storm comes through here, and you have all the media tents down below, how they're all going to be scrambling right now. This is potentially a little bit of a squall. I don't think it's going to affect our coverage or anything here in the Catalina foothills. But I want to tell you right now, and again, this is not going to be a 10-second blurb or 20-second blurb. I'm going to walk through it. I didn't come to this lightly, but I am saying right now on the record that I don't, after being out here, I arrived here at the end of week 1. We're coming up on the end of week 3. I don't believe the timeline. I don't believe the timeline that has been put forward. It doesn't make sense. The timeline that we have been put out by the police. Now, I want to be very clear. I'm not knocking the police in any way. I'm not knocking the sheriff. I think this is a tough case. This is an unusual case. And I think that is playing into it. And I apologize for some of the wind that you're hearing. And well, actually, there's nothing I can do about the wind. But out of nowhere, I mean, it was calm and pleasant just a moment ago. This is a desert squall that we're experiencing. But let me just push through. Where we're led to believe is that she was at the daughter's home, Annie and the son-in-law, and then son-in-law drove her back. And at 9:45, thereabouts 9:30, dropped her off. She went into the garage. The garage door went up. The garage door came down. She presumably went to bed. And then suddenly someone came into that home and abducted her. And it just doesn't make any sense. It's a high risk crime. There's so many things I want to come back to, so many cases. I also want to be very clear. I'm not particularly pointing the finger at any one individual. I believe at this point that the sheriff, I think they should hand over the investigation to the FBI, because I think the way there have been too many mistakes made, and I think they need someone fresh leading the investigation right now. It's nothing against the sheriff, nothing against him personally or anything, but I think they're in over their head. But I just looking at you, we can't ignore, if you take Savannah Guthrie, take Savannah out of the mix. Now I know, and I agree with so many people that have said the whole reason this is getting so much attention is because it's the mother of Savannah Guthrie. And I'm not arguing with that, and I'm not disputing that. But so many of these situations, crimes, and this is a crime, it's the last person to see the person alive. That was the case with Brian Walsh. That was the case with Charlotte Lester. That was even the case with Karen Reed. That was the case with so many. It's the last person that actually saw the person alive. But here's what we know. Who would know? Who would know that an 84-year-old woman lives in that house, that brick, beautiful structure here in the Catalina foothills? Who would know that she lives there alone, that she has no security, no dog, and that no one was going to be staying overnight? Who would know that? Who would risk? Who would risk going in? I want to also emphasize, they're saying it wasn't a robbery. Nothing was taken. Who would risk the penalty for going in and abducting an 84-year-old woman at 2 in the morning? Now, I've heard from so many of you that your mothers, your grandmothers, maybe yourself, elderly people generally are light sleepers. Now, I have heard that maybe uses a hearing aid, turns off a hearing aid. That's possible. But I come back to, who would know all those things? Who would know that the back door is left unlocked? Was Hi there. Okay. You live here, right? Okay. So I'm live right now, so that's why I just can't chat. No, that's okay. So who would know that? Who would know that? All right, let's go. She has a hearing aid and she takes it out at night. But still, who's to say, like, you can't, how would you know? If you're the person that's going to go in there, how would you know that she's not going to wake up in the middle of the night to, use the bathroom and then suddenly hears someone and dials 911? Who would take that type of risk? Let alone, there seemingly were more than one person. And that seems to be the case. Maybe as many as three. Driver, they believe there was someone in the house, and then we see the video of the person coming up. But the person that's coming up to the house is very calm. The person that's coming up to the house is seeming not breaking in through the front door, but just entering through the front door. They did take her out the front door, and you see the circular driveway. So now I think I have video up of the neighbors that we talked about. And I've experienced this. This is one of the things of when you're out here, and there's just no substitute for, as they call it, boots on the ground experience. That's why I do it, because you learn so much. People come out and tell you things. People see me. They recognize me from the coverage now. I want to thank, by the way, the people in this area. Nancy Guthrie, her home's in a lovely area. The people here in the Catalina foothills, some of them have very lovely homes. A very nice couple. They're older, grandparents came out. They've been watching the coverage. They invited me into their home. They allowed me to use their restroom facility, Lavette. They offered me water. I even had a little cheese and cracker. And they live on a beautiful 4-acre plateau. It's unbelievable. Um, and my like it's such a lovely area, but the locals know that unless you're local, you can't operate around here. This is highly unusual because of no streetlights. If somebody was using GPS on a phone, the phone would have they would have got a bounce off of a cell tower. They can't they don't have a phone bouncing off here. At least they haven't released that. So with navigation, you would have to. I mean, all the reporters talk about. I even use navigation during the day. At nighttime, it's pitch black, totally blackness. For those of you in Rhode Island, if you know certain areas, I used to, we had a beach house at Green Hill, and this was, Green Hill years ago, and 50 years ago, and Green Hill, Matunic, Theater by the Sea. There were areas around there. There's no street lights. So at nighttime, I mean, it is pitch black. That's what this reminds me. I mean, you have to. I was talking to a reporter that couldn't find their way. You have to get out of your vehicle and flash your light on the street sign to see where you are. It's so pitch black. So I'm saying right now, I find, I just don't, I don't find it plausible that some group came in here in the middle, literally the middle of the night, and removed an 84-year-old woman, did not leave a kidnapping note, um, took her out of here. The ransom note started with TMZ and a local station. That started on, I think, day 4. So if you take that out of the mix, if you take Savannah out of the mix, and by the way, I'm not saying you should or could, but it's just so highly unusual what has taken place here that it really doesn't make sense, because this isn't New York City. I know that people have talked about Savannah Guthrie, and I want to be very clear. I feel terrible for Savannah, her brother, family, what they're going through. But I just, and I can't stress this enough, where everyone's working off that timeline. I also want to be very clear, and you don't hear any, not that I don't hear anyone say this, that do the police really believe that's the timeline? I'll get specific, and I know that they've tried to discourage people, but they also haven't released, okay, the brother-in-law, what do we know about him? And where was he? Where was he after this? Now, I would imagine the police don't. Do the police believe him? I'm going to ask questions. I'm not making statements. Does he have a solid alibi? Do they have his phone and who he was communicating with 48 hours leading up to this? Do they? Does he have a solid alibi? What do we know about? I mean, we really don't know anything about him. The whole element of this that is framed is, I mean, the way the whole story is concocted and framed is around it's Savannah Guthrie, who by all accounts is just, an accomplished, well-liked, loved individual. And you can certainly see the pain in her voice and the videos that have also taken off. But if you step back, what was the nature of what's the gain is what I'm trying to say. And I was just telling JLR, so I convince, let's just say I'm that person going in on the front stoop, and they believe that there was more than one person. Why are we doing this? I'm trying to convince you, you're my friend or brother or acquaintance, whatever. How am I convincing you to do this? Is it for revenge? Is it for money? Most of the crimes are for money. I know people have said the cartel. I don't, but where's the payout is what I'm trying to say. Where's the payout here? So I want to come back to, and I want to be very clear. This is day 20 that I'm saying this. And this is from being out here because this just doesn't make sense. The reason why this, one of the reasons I believe that this is so unique is because ultimately, what was the motivation? And let's just say I'm going to put myself in the place of the person that's on the front step. And I convince you to, you know, commit this crime with me. What am I promising you? Now, I'm going to point to, and as I try to, um, I like to use, and I know we have so many new people. And again, right now we're live on AM 1380, 99.9 FM. You can listen online at our website, which is depetro.com, no eyes. You can also, right now, we are live on Facebook and YouTube. So, and I know not everyone does this, but I point to, I like to use crime films that people can relate to. Here we are. And one of the things is in the town, right? The town, Doug, Ben Affleck, he's ready to, I'm putting this whole town in my review. We got a ton of heat on us. What was the motivating factor for Jem? They have the heat all over them, right? The florist came through, Fergie. What motivates them to do it? It's what is Jem, played by Jeremy Renner? What does he say to Doug, played by Ben Affleck, who's Doug McCrae? It's excuse me, it's large, Dougie. It's large. Red Sox, Yankees, 4-day homestand. It's large. So as much as it's a risk, the payday is the motivation. It's still worth it. A better example, I think, is actually in the movie Heat. Now, keep in mind, both of these, they're all basically off of, I know they are only films, but they're based off of a lot of times true stories. But in the movie Heat, Robert De Niro, what is, they have a ton of heat on them. What is the motivation to go take down the bank? They even have the meeting where they all have to weigh in, and it's the amount of money. What does Chris say, played by Val Kilmer? It's I need it. I say we stay and take the bank down. What is Neil McCauley, played by De Niro? What does he say to John Voight, who's the character Nate? The bank is worth the stretch. We know there's a lot of heat on us. That's where the movie line comes from, heat. You're talking about low 8-figure haul, 11 million, 12 million. So in other words, it's worth it. The bank is worth the stretch. A haul of this kind, it's worth it for them, even though they know they're under a ton of heat and then they're going to have to get out of town after that. My point is, what is that? Why am I doing this? Let's just say, I'm the guy that we see on her front stoop with the hood and the holster and the backpack. How do I convince you to come and help me do this? Why are we doing this? What is my payday? Other than if the thing falls apart, it's going to be a lot of time in prison. Why are we doing this? Okay, so I'm going to come with you. We're going to go to that house that you're looking in front of you. There's Nancy Guthrie's home. And we're going to go in and we're going to abduct her. Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this again? How many people have ever asked that sometimes when you're wondering about a job that you're involved in? Why am I doing this? For what? The enjoyment of it? Is it for what? Crime is normally motivated by money. Now, I've heard that they've shaken the trees of local criminals and they keep coming up empty. And I know that some of you may not understand what I'm talking about, but I'm telling you, I've been talking nonstop with members of law enforcement. And for those of you that follow how long in the different cases that we have followed, a lot of people cover trials, but we spend, and I spend most of my time with police. But I know from local, they have shaken the trees of local criminals. What does Vincent in Heat, what does he say? Let's check local fences. Let's check in the town. They go to Henry in Charlestown and say, good news for you. What does John Voight say to him? Good news for you. You have an alibi on the Cambridge job, but I'm willing to bet you know something about it. And then he tells them, all I know is they have a way to get around the alarm. And then it's someone that works at telecom. So my point is, I know that with this, they have been shaking the tree of local criminals, local B&E crews. And no one seems to know who was then in on this. So now you're talking about either non-criminals or people completely from the outside. Folks, again, we couldn't do this coverage without your support. If you're on YouTube, you can send a super chat. If you're on Facebook, you can send stars, become a subscriber. This portion of our program, I want to thank one of our sponsors, capitalfenceRI.com. Boy, I can tell you, people around here are all ready to install fences. Remember, a fence, why not put a fence around your home, residential property, or your building? Owner Mike Rizzo, serving Rhode Island and Massachusetts. CapitalFenceRI.com. Fence and Gate, the most trusted. Free estimate. Call them today at 401 618 4407. Capital Fence. Now, they also do repair and maintenance, but it's the highest quality. A nice, beautiful fence around your property. It can protect your pet, it can protect you. It acts as a deterrent of someone coming in. There's a lot of people that they have a locking gate, and you now have a fortress around your home. And I want to especially appeal, free estimate, by the way, Capital Fence, 401 618 4407. They're licensed and insured. I want to remind people, Rhode Island and Massachusetts remain sanctuary states. And Governor Healy and McKee, they don't care about you. You have an obligation to protect yourself and your family. And the way to do that is with Capital Fence, 401 618 4407. I also want to thank Propane Plus. If you use propane, call Propane Plus today online at propaneplus.com. Serving Rhode Island and Massachusetts. In Rhode Island, call them 401 885 4209. In Massachusetts, 508 252 3359 for Propane Plus. For all your propane needs, it's Propane Plus. Now, I do want to double check, just to recap, it is day 20. Day 20. I am aware in Rhode Island, I was there. This is the anniversary of the Dadarian fire, the nightclub in West Warwick. I was on scene in the early morning hours of that. That was before live streaming. That was before all of that. I knew a number of the people that passed away, died in that terrible blaze. Dr. Metal knew him, saw him that morning. He asked me if I wanted to meet up with him that night. It was his birthday. I did not. Billy Bernardi, I knew. There were several people. Tracy King. And I mean, my friend Scotty, his wife passed away in that. I do know, and I am thinking of that. But right now, we are out here, day 20, week 3. Now, unless there's some break in the case, tomorrow's day 21. We're going to be here. Sunday starts week 4, day 22. Where is Nancy Guthrie? I know there's talk about the border. I know there's talk about Mexico. I am aware of that. But the fact of the matter is, I am saying on this day 20, end of week 3, that I just wonder, and everyone can talk about how it's been mishandled. And I know I see the people saying that if it wasn't Savannah, but it is Savannah Guthrie. And it is her 84-year-old mom. And the whole story just remains so bizarre. And that's like it absolutely, it's not your imagination. It doesn't make sense. And what I'm trying to say is the story of this individual, and for those that are watching, that person arriving here with the mask and the camera or outside on the porch and the backpack and the gloves and the holster, I come back to like what was this? I know earlier someone was saying maybe it's someone out to get Savannah. Okay, but then why don't you go for Savannah? If that were the case, why, like, to me, why wouldn't you? Luigi Mangione had a problem with Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Health. What did he do? He traveled to New York and took him out. So, but why would you take her 84-year-old mother? Now, Nancy Guthrie, okay, she'd been on the Today Show, and people around here knew that's the woman. Savannah grew up in the house. She lives there. But they're not a billionaire. She doesn't have several mil in a safe in the house. They just, everyone is, to me, is like spinning in circles a little bit. And I think you have to step back and also notice that there are members of law enforcement saying that it's a robbery gone wrong. And then the sheriff comes out and says, no, she was abducted. I think both can be true. A robbery gone wrong that turns into a homicide. But is it, see, and I also, there's so much that we don't know, such as, I mean, I've been told that it wasn't a robbery, nothing was taken. Also, people have speculated, could she have had a heart attack? But that, from what we've been led to believe, that would have shown with her pacemaker designed to her Apple Watch iPhone. So I admit that's odd, but this doesn't seem to be. There's no broken glass. So then that leads you to question. I know early on someone had said forced entry, and then the sheriff pushed back on that, saying I never said forced entry. So okay, other people have speculated that the back door was left unlocked. Who left the back door unlocked? And why would you? Now, we did interview neighbors yesterday. For those of you, I did post a video of it. And the neighbors were saying that they used to sleep with their doors unlocked. But if someone did, maybe someone did out of habit, or maybe someone unlocked and left the back door unlocked. I come back to who would know that? And I want to be very clear. I didn't come out. I've been going along with the same timeline that the police in it that we're all going off of. Like, to me, this whole story starts to, potentially fall apart if you don't believe the timeline, if you don't believe what's been established here. Because to me, right now, the timeline that they have set forward, it does not, based on the information that we have. I mean, and look at how everyone, all top FBI, crime experts, everyone is all saying the same thing, that it's such an unusual case and none of it makes sense. But I want to put a caveat: if you are to believe the current timeline that they have established. Who is that? That's the person supposedly with no backpack. Where's the backpack? Put it in a car? Is it, can't be, is there two people? Someone has a video now where they think they show someone leaning against a vehicle in the front of the house. I think that's interesting. I also come back to the neighbors. If you've seen the video, and there is video that I have posted, about the neighbors. It's it people, first of all, you can't walk around here at night. You can't walk around here at night. No one walks around here at night. Look at, for those that are, look at the brush. Look at the cacti. Look at, this is, it's not only is it pitch dark, this is the desert. There's coyotes. The woman that I was talking to in an interview yesterday, she actually moved out of this area. She moved a little farther south. She had fencing up. She had her dog out in the back, and a coyote leapt over the fence and took her dog. So you can't walk around here at night. If you're walking around here at night, you could easily then be encircled by a pack of coyotes. And I recognize in the Northeast, you know, they tell you, a lot of times you see, like Middletown, apparently there's a lot of coyotes. And they'll tell you that if you, they're more afraid of us than them. But I think it's a different story if you were walking around here at night and you suddenly had 4 coyotes around you, or 5, I don't think then they just run off if you stomp your foot at them or blow a whistle. I don't think they're leaving, and they definitely would go after you. You can't have a cat outside around here, or you can't even have a dog. But I think the locals, now I've been talking to the locals, and so many of them, number one, they don't want to give their name, which is fine. Number two, they don't want to go on camera and say this. But I can tell you, on this day 20, week 3 coverage on the search for Nancy Guthrie, that I can tell you that the locals, they're the ones telling me that they don't believe the timeline. They don't believe, and I want to, some people will misinterpret that. They don't believe, it's not that they don't believe the police, they don't believe the timeline that we're all going off trying to figure this out. That's what I'm talking about. Now, I also want to thank one of our tremendous sponsors, Serve Pro of Providence. If you have a fire or a flood, water damage, fire, mold, storm recovery, let's just say you own a business and suddenly you have a fire. Well, number one, first you're going to have fire damage. You're also going to have smoke damage. And then believe me, you're going to have water damage because they need to use so much water to put it out. Then, so now you have water damage. Then you could end up getting mold. Serve Pro of Providence. Give them a call. They're available 24/7. When disaster strikes, Serve Pro of Providence, 401 941 5500. Fast, thorough, professional. Serve Pro of Providence, 401 941 5500. I also want to thank Watson Materials. At some point, spring is, I think, 1 month away, 4 weeks till spring. Serve Pro of Providence. Then all the snow and ice will melt. You can enjoy yourself outside. Call Sean for a free quote at Watson Materials, 401 885 0600. Watson Materials, the most complete selection of landscape materials in Rhode Island, is Watson Materials. Now, to be clear, I am out here. I see no reason to leave. I don't. I think they are waiting for DNA testing. But what also is interesting about the DNA testing is if you had someone and they went to them and said, "We found your DNA in the house." Okay, yeah, you did find my DNA in the house. I'm in and out of that house all the time. I've been in that house a bunch of times. Then what is that? That kind of throws off the police. I want to be very cautious. I'm certainly not making a blind accusation. I'm not doing an Ashley Banfield of saying that when she announced certain people were suspects. Don't want you to misinterpret. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, what am I saying? I'm saying the puzzle that we have under the current timeline, simply it doesn't add up. And what really doesn't add up is the nature of someone arriving here like Martians, like aliens at 1:30 in the morning, arriving at that house in front of you that you're looking at. And their main purpose, again, I want to remind people, they're saying that if we're to believe, everything that we're told right now about the circumstances and the timeline, someone arrived at that home right there in front of you. There her houses. There's the front door. Arrived here to rob, but to just abduct her. Okay, abduct Nancy Guthrie. And I want to come back to, if we, for lack of a better term, but role play a little bit, and we're role playing, and you come to me and you say, and we're friends, and you say, I need your help. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to go into that house and we're going to abduct this woman. I come back to, why am I doing this? Because you're my friend. Well, I know that scene in The Town when Ben Affleck, Doug, goes to Jem and says, I need your help. You can't ever ask me about it, but we're going to hurt some people. And what does Jem say? Who's driving? I need your help. Don't ever ask me about it, but we're going to go hurt some people. Okay, that's a movie, right? I get the loyalty there, but that was in The Town to just put a beating on some goons in Charlestown housing project. And then Jeremy Renner takes out, right, his gun, and actually after they beat them and tell them to get out of there because they threw bottles at Claire. So now she had to walk around instead of cutting through the housing project. But I want to come back to that. I'm just, so even if we're criminals, remember, criminals, it's about crime. It's about enriching yourself. Why are we, why? Okay, you're explaining to me. I need you to come with me. We're gonna go, middle of the, when are we doing this? 1:30 in the morning. Oh, okay, 1:30. That's kind of late, but okay, is this a business or a store? No, no. Catalina Foothills, Catalina Foothills. There's this 84-year-old woman that lives alone. Okay, and she has a lot. No, 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 no jewels. No. She's coming to your family. No. Why am I doing this? This sounds like a lot of prison time. Is she not home? No, she's going to be home. She's going to be asleep. Okay. What? Why am I doing this? Is anyone else going to be there? No. Does she have an alarm? No. Does she have a dog? No. Is it possible? What if she said to her daughter, I'm not feeling that well? And the daughter said, I'm going to come, I'll stay overnight, make sure you're okay. I'll just, come home in the morning. No, there's no one going to be there. How are we going to get in? Forced entry? No forced entry. How do you know these things? And more importantly, why am I doing this? We're talking about a lot of time. I just got out of the joint. What does Jem say? I'm never going back there. What does Robert De Niro say? I am never going back. Neil McCauley. Why would I do this? Because we're friends. Well, hold on. Because we're friends. Because we're friends. Oh, okay. That's a lot of loyalty. Is it a payday? No. Am I going to get millions from this? No. Then why? Right? Do you understand? Like, why am I doing this? You know what? Because I don't believe. I don't. I think it's false. And I can understand why that the sheriff and law enforcement want to keep saying that it's real and they're cooperating. But I am telling you right now, the story that has been put forth is none of it, just doesn't make sense. And I know we've all said It's so unusual, without precedent. People have mentioned the Lindbergh baby kidnapping. I don't even exactly know when that was. Lindbergh, wasn't he like flying one of the first planes, like Charles Lindbergh? I wasn't alive then. There's been other kidnappings. There's all the Israelis. A bunch of them were kidnapped back October of over 2 years ago. You have Americans sometimes that are kidnapped overseas. Sometimes you have, for those of you that followed the problems that they had in Russia in the early part of the 2000s, it was the Chechen rebels, and they had hostages inside of the movie theater in Moscow. And then, of course, you have what is one of the most daring, unbelievable, was the Beslan, where they overtook a school on the first day of learning. That was September 1st of 2004. Again, that was Chechen rebels. Chechnya is a country about the size of Connecticut, and they were waging war against Putin in Russia. And the Chechen rebels, they had subway bombing. As I said, the Moscow hostage taking, where then the Russian government screwed up and put sleeping gas inside, but they weren't prepared. And then a bunch of the people died. With the Beslan situation, the Chechen rebels, they went in there with the purpose. They basically said that the Russian troops had killed so many of their family, they were not even expecting to get out of there. And oh my God, I mean, so many of what was it, 270 children, 350 adults, I mean, 350 people total. That's where the Russian government then just blasted in there and killed everyone. My point is, the Chechen rebels, and by the way, the brothers involved with the Boston Marathon bombing, they were from Chechnya. But what is this? Like, this would make, and I know some people aren't going to get the path I'm going down, but if you went in there and it said spray painted on the wall, "Free Palestine," then it's like some whacked Hamas supporters, or like this. There's still no why. Why are they doing this? Why did they go into that house that you're looking at? And for those that are watching, this is day 20 of the search for Nancy Guthrie. It is a real live mystery. I also, there are so many clues that the police are putting out there for those that want to follow. The police are convinced that everything took place right in this general area. Really very, very close. Now, this portion of our program, I normally have her on because of the nature of the hecticness of everything going on with the schedule. I have not. We will have her back. But I want to remind you, for those that are in the Rhode Island, Massachusetts area, about our friend Marie, Retailer of the Year at It's My Health, 1099 Mendon Road in Cumberland. Stop in and see the Queen of Health, Marie. If you're right now listening to the radio, AM 1380, 99.9 FM, or and you're in the Cumberland area, you could pop in and see Marie. I'm jealous. Diagonally across from Davenport Restaurant, everything to keep you healthy. Support. By the way, I want to appeal to the people of the area. She's a tremendous godsend. She is a reputable, tremendous business person, retailer, catering to keeping people healthy. And she has natural herbs and spices. She has delicious teas. She has hemp and CBD products. She has a tremendous selection of teas and herbs and spices. If you go in and tell Marie that you have an ailment, or maybe you were sick and you're still not 100%, or maybe you hurt yourself shoveling store ice, she has hemp and CBD products. It's My Health, 1099 Mendon Road in Cumberland. And on Saturdays, they have a bevy of different classes. It's My Health. If you're on Mendon Road right now, She's diagonally across from Davenport Restaurant in that historic white church, flag out front. Say hello to the Queen. It's my health. Now, I recognize good news about the Trump tariffs. I'm not talking about that. I also recognize, um, obviously, it was a very traumatic week for the people of Rhode Island with what happened in Pawtucket. It's horrible. It's terrible. I'm not. I don't understand. Some people don't understand the nature of news. Some people, for whatever reason, but I'm not. It's terrible. It happened there. I am communicating with the mother of the son that burnt down the church. It's possible, or tried to, I should say, tried to. We may talk to her. The only really good news to come out of this is the hero that jumped in. I also want to point out, by all accounts, the son, Aiden, who lost his life. I've heard just such great things. This is terrible. Poor Rhonda, the mother, she raised her family. The kids love her. I understand there's a grieving family here. I've been communicating with some of them. I know that some of them have been doing some media interviews. Um, I believe, and it's so terrible for all the kids that were on the ice, the families that were there. That's an act of evil that took place. But I also believe, and I'm not going to get into a big debate about it, but I believe that a real discussion that should take place has to do with the fact, and no one knows the effects of someone who is going through that transition surgery. And you're talking about someone that seemingly had, however people want to phrase it, demons, problems, mental health problems. To me, that is not someone that should have been allowed to qualify to have the surgery, to have these things done, take all these medications, change hormones. It's just so, it just doesn't see, it sounds to me like this was someone who was not mentally stable to begin with. And the whole element of transitioning gender was almost used as a cover for very erratic behavior. And also, no one can tell me roid rage is real. This was someone definitely using performance enhancing drugs, supplements. And when you mix that with whatever medications, drugs they were giving this individual for the transformation of switch gender, I have not heard that there's a lot of research or evidence about what the effects of that can be. This is someone that had very erratic behavior. I feel terrible for the children. I do. But there are some people, by the way, that just want to shut down everything. And I don't understand that. I don't relate to it. I don't think that's, don't talk about it. And we've actually, those of you that follow the show, we encounter this actually with it's it's kind of a naive, immature reaction when something tragic happens, that they actually believe that if it's not talked about, that it's almost like it didn't happen. And we go through this. Those of you that follow, and again, I want to thank all our subscribers and everyone that supports. You can send stars. If you're on YouTube, make sure you follow the page. You can send super chats. But many of you, especially the Facebook crowd, know that we deal with this essentially every time that there is some horrible situation, that some people have this reaction that if it's not talked about and not shown, that it didn't happen, it's obviously not accurate. It's not the truth. It's people that it's too much in some ways for them to handle. So they want to block it all out. Don't talk about it. I have people messaging me. You see them posting. Don't talk about it more. Don't post on it. Don't show that person. Block, block, deny, deny. As I've said, I think one of the best examples, there were people on September 12th, September 13th, anytime after that, don't show the plane going into the towers. Don't show it anymore. It didn't happen. If you don't show it, they were actually contacting the networks. Don't show it. Because if you don't show it, it's as if it didn't happen. That's not real life. Okay. What happened on Monday at that rink in Pawtucket, that happened. It's true. It's a hard truth. It's a horrible truth. It's so terrible what happened. Unimaginable that the state would have another mass shooting, but it happened. So the people don't talk about it. Don't show it. I have had people message me, talk about anything else, but don't talk about that. Listen, I know you're uncomfortable, many of you. And the people, it's not you per se, the people watching, but many of the people that send those messages, I get. I have, they send me messages saying that it's basically they have so much anxiety from it that it's like they're under the bed in the fetal position. And they have this thought and reaction that if it's not talked about, it's almost as if it didn't happen. It did happen. And what you want to do is through talk and conversation and learning from it, the goal should be to try to make sure it doesn't happen again. But I do know that if we pretend it didn't happen, that doesn't solve anything. That won't solve anything. That doesn't do anything. That, I mean, again, but you know what else just find interesting? It's the same thing with well, not exactly the same thing, but we found this with Manton Avenue, of which I'm so glad. And I want to thank Dan McGowan even said, I've given that more coverage than anyone. That on the night of Martin Luther King, 4 boys under the age of 13 randomly beat a man to death on Manton Avenue in Providence, and no one wants to talk about it. And it's so horrific. He's not injured. He died. He died, and they killed him. And again, the same story. People don't talk about it anymore. You've talked about it enough. Don't talk about like I always come back to who are you to decide when we talk about it or stop talking about it? I never understand that with these people. And you're getting it with this. Don't talk about it anymore. I had people on Wednesday. The situation at the rink, that happened on Monday. I had people on Wednesday. All right, no more on this. That's it. No more. No more. No one should talk about this anymore. That is a very provincial, immature, basically in denial attitude. Folks, something that you can't deny, by the way, I want to thank one of our sponsors is Kids Club. Kids Club on the Pike for daycare, for preschool, after school care, before school, after school, daycare, preschool, Kids Club on the Pike. They have several locations. Now, obviously, one on Plainfield Pike on the Cranston Johnson line right off 295. But Kristen has several locations. Call them 401 443 5336. You're going to love it. And again, it's very responsible daycare. No drag queens doing story hour, not at Kids Club in the Pike. Now, just to recap, I want to thank Pete. It's been quite a week with our coverage. We continue in the Catalina foothills searching for Nancy Guthrie. I hope over the next several hours and days that we have some update, some breakthrough in the case. I don't know. At the same time, pray for the poor family involved, everyone affected with the mass shooting in Pawtucket. If you're listening to the radio, stay tuned for the 2 o'clock news. Now, everyone else, thank you, Pete. We're going to be doing updates during the course of the day and the weekend. Now, we don't know, admittedly. I mean, I don't know. We don't know. Here we go. Should be okay now. Oh, why is that doing that? Let me go back the other way then. Um, Look at that. Oh, nope, that's not it. And, oh, that's odd. Camera. Here we go. Nope, it's not that. Why am I seeing blackness? Maybe I'm just seeing it. Hold on, everybody. Let me go to the back camera. There we go. Okay. I don't know what that was. All right. Now listen, everybody. Thank you, everyone. Uh, last Friday night, if you were watching, that was very dramatic. Maybe we'll have another Friday night like that. I don't know. But in the meantime, thank you for watching. This is simple prayer today. Pray for everyone that lost their life with the Station nightclub fire, everyone that was impacted by it. Pray for Nancy and her family. We'll be stay tuned. Thank you, everyone, for your support. We'll be back, obviously, with more updates.